So what is a Trump trade and why are they so lucrative at the moment? Let's look at, say, Exxon Mobil. Jumped up after Trump was re-elected, and what the angle is there's usually some thematic reason. For instance, Tesla, Elon's his new best mate. With Exxon, the idea is deregulation of the oil markets. You would think would mean greater profitability for the companies. Of course, you could make the counter argument that there'll be greater supply, peace in the Middle East, which Trump has promised would mean lower oil prices. Surely that would mean companies such as this won't do as well. However, at the moment, the thesis is they will continue to do incredibly well with deregulation, more mining and drilling and so on. So what you want to do with any such trade, if you believe the thesis, is you still need to get right several things. One, the duration. If you get that wrong, then you're just flying blind. The stop loss, the point at which you know your thesis was wrong and therefore you want to get out. Now, some people would hate taking losses, so they'll come up with new thesis all along the way, and that's fine. That's a different story. It's a hypothetical for now. Now, in this case, I've drawn below its most recent significant low, so about a 22% fixed stop loss. I've made it fixed to give the stock more room to maneuver. And then a projection. Now, a projection I prefer doing based on either the upper band or lower band of a channel in which the stock is already moving, or a projection of the existing trend. This is sort of an example of that. So we're looking at over 12 months hitting 37%. Now you might say, well, what happens if? But what if it goes up 50% sooner? What if it goes sideways for longer? Well, those are things, when they arise, you can deal with. For the moment, all Trump trades will be based upon a fixed stop loss, a projection of timelines, and a projection of the upside. If you don't like those numbers, 12 months, 37% minus 22, then that's not the trade. Then you move on. How much money you put in, or money management, is critically important. Easy to work out. If it drops 22%, you don't want to lose more than X percent. Now, X percent for a hedge fund would be 1% of their total capital. For a private investor, it might be as high as 2.5%. Once you get to losing 5% of your total capital, if it drops 22%, you better have a really high conviction, because the more capital you are risking, the closer you are becoming to a gambler. Okay? For instance, give you a classic example. Let's say you bet the house on it. What would your mother say, which is also a good test? What would your spouse say? They'd say, you're an idiot. Okay, that's why 1% is further away from the gambling side. It's still gambling if your definition of gambling is you don't know the future and you are making a, albeit calculated, view on it. Now, you could mitigate the risk even further by looking at the valuation, historic and present, of ExxonMobil, the rate of growth. You could look up the news items on it. You could look up analyst upgrades, downgrades, and so on and so forth, which are the additional things we look at on the Great Investments Program to mitigate our risk even further. We don't just purely structure it on one theme, one decision. I mean, rarely we do. I'll give you an example. Liz Truss, Brexit, Trump being re-elected, those are three things on which we would throw out the rule book and say, right, these are specific investments, trades regarding those. I'll do a separate video on more of these. Have a look at my links in the bio if you want to know more, if you want us to have a look at your portfolio. This might go into my pension. It might. I'll make a decision later, and I'll keep you updated on TikTok and YouTube. The other things with more Trump trades that I'm going to show you, there's going to be some in healthcare, there's going to be some in private prisons. Those are going to be full, given the planned deportations he's promised. There's going to be some on healthcare, because Medicare will benefit. He's promised to increase the refund rate to claimants. Medicaid might not so much, because he's promised to be a bit more stringent on how much the state pays in Medicaid. Anyway, the nuances and the details, that's a whole bunch of thematic trades. These happen infrequently. Brexit was one. As I said, Liz Truss was another. This is another. and we're going to look at them closely and diligently to mitigate risk in each case. Relatively few times in life do you ever get a one-way bet. This isn't a one-way bet. When they are, I've told people, this isn't a one-way bet. You've got a MACD which is falling. That's why you want to have those extra risk mitigation elements to it. Okay, like and follow for more. If you've got problems with your pension, have a look at alpeshpatel.com/links. Lots of free resources help there. Thank you.